Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butler ATL. And today, we got somebody special in the building. The one, only Mr. Brandon Chubb of Do Not Disturb. We got two Brandons up in here, man. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Okay, we're going to have to make sure we do this right because, people,
Yeah.
they not know which Brandon we talking about.
So we're in your world. So you're the Brandon. I'm usually the Chubb, right? So I get Chubb, and because Brandon's such a common name, and when I hear Brandon in this setting, I know it's you first, and then I'm gonna look, and if it's me, all right, cool.
Okay, so for those who's watching, I'm the one without the muscles. So look, Brandon, man, we got connected through my guy Ty. Shout out to Union Fit Hub, man. You're doing some amazing work out here in Atlanta with Do Not Disturb and everything else. But we do something special here on Butternomics.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So one of the things we do is we like to ask ChatGPT to write a bio, and I like to read it to the people that come on. And you tell me, is chat off? Is
like
it on?
this.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's it.
Because I don't know if you ever looked yourself up on chat before. Probably Googled yourself,
Yeah.
but this is the new Google.
I use ChatGPT a lot, so I'm interested to see what it can convert.
Okay, this is what it came back with. It says, Brandon Chubb is a former NFL linebacker turned wellness entrepreneur, investor, and community advocate. After retiring from professional football, Brandon recognized the gap between the elite wellness experiences provided to athletes and what was accessible to everyday people, especially in Atlanta. The realization led him to co-found Do Not Disturb, a premier wellness studio located in Atlanta's iconic Pond City Market. With Do Not Disturb, Brandon aims to transform how the city approaches self-care, physical recovery, and mental clarity, making elite-level wellness accessible and relatable. In addition to his wellness endeavors, he also serves as the player director for the NFL Players Union, where he advocates for personal and professional well-being of athletes during and after their NFL careers. He is also the co-founder of Captain Partners, an Atlanta-based venture capital firm dedicated to supporting diverse entrepreneurs and innovative startups. Across his ventures, Brandon brings intentionality, cultural insight, and community-first mindset, leveraging his NFL experiences and entrepreneurial vision to positively impact the culture, wellness, business, and community of Atlanta and beyond. What you think?
Well said. Humbly well said. Yeah.
You got a lot of stuff, man.
That's very, very intriguing, right? How far technology has come. And I wonder if it was pulling from my memory, because I do a lot of prompts for D&D of, newsletters or, just thinking about different problems. Also with Captain Partners, also with the Chubb. That's impressive.
Well, so I'm gonna tell you, there was
That's
a thing.
impressive.
There was a thing. A lot of people don't know. I was a techie in a former life, so I mess around with all this
Yeah.
stuff. There was actually something that came out the other day. It said if you've ever shared a chat with somebody, you can actually share ChatGPT
didn't know
chats.
that.
Yeah, if you actually share it and you don't change the settings, it's public and it can be found on Google. There's a certain search you can do. So people have going around searching for husband and wife and divorcing, because a lot of people, I guess, they're writing out their
Right.
thoughts and then
Yeah.
sending them to their friends, being so it's not gonna find your personal stuff. But if you've
That's
been sharing
interesting.
anything, you just got to make it private, or
Yeah.
else it can show up on Google. Just FYI.
Good to know. I'll pay that $20 subscription. I'm underutilizing ChatGPT.
That's why I tell people, man, look, y'all using that one, man. You got to get the $20
No,
one.
that's dope. I know a lot of law firms that told their employees don't upload sensitive information
Yeah,
because of that memory aspect, but that's interesting.
Yeah, man.
It definitely makes sense.
absolutely, man. So tell me, what was the moment when you kind of realized that the wellness community, especially what you're doing as an athlete, was actually a business opportunity?
Yeah, 2019 I retired. 2021 I started working for the NFL Players Association. This is in the midst of COVID as well. And I still had the same body. I still had the same needs. I had 2 ACLs in the league. So being able to recover was a paramount thing for me and a priority. And then also with the NFLPA, I travel 50-60% of my time for work. So you're crunched up on the airplane. You're in a hotel that probably doesn't have an ideal gym, doesn't have any type of recovery. You're sleeping not in your bed, right? You're up at the early hours. You're in Ubers, etc. And a lot of the travel is in New York. Jets, Giants are 2 of my teams. And when I'm in New York, man, it's you can do anything. I call New York the playground, right? They have these wellness studios. I followed this entrepreneur named Stephen Chuk. He has S10 training up in Chelsea. And probably around this same time, he was building out this recovery studio ancillary to his gym, right? So he trains these high-end New York clients, like models and rappers and things like this. And he built these private suites that had an infrared sauna, had a tub that you could pull with ice, or you could do just a warm bath with Epsom salt or whatnot. And the aesthetic was beautiful. And so when I would go to New York, I would always stop at his place just to get my recovery session in, trying to emulate anything I could from what I had as a player, right? I played at Wake Forest for 5 years and then 4 years in the NFL. all these facilities had right outside our locker room a sauna, cold plunge. You had the training room, massage table, a chiropractor came every other day, right? So you had this at your fingertips. And once you're no longer an athlete, you no longer have access. So my point being, I was going to New York, let's call it every other month, going to S10, doing the recovery stuff. And I would come back home and be like, damn, like it's nothing like this here.
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to do that, I would have to go to, at the time, Jeju, just to sit in the cold tub. Then I would have to go to, I have a YMCA membership in Buckhead. I would go there to sit in the sauna. I would go to Floasis to sit in the float tank. And then I would do a house call for a massage to get the massage aspect. And one, that's not feasible, right? We talked about before this podcast started, death by 1,000 cuts. But then two, like, you only got 24 hours in a day. If you're sleeping 10 hours of that, right, and working another 8 to 9 hours of that, you don't have time to do 4 hours of wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And so the inspiration from the New York trips and also seeing the white space in Atlanta, I understood that there was a need for this. And then post-pandemic, McKinsey did a study. People are prioritizing wellness more than ever. And the definition of wellness has changed, right? It's less about how strong I am or how many abs I have. And it's more about, like, do I feel great when I wake up?
Yeah.
Can I go to bed on time? Am I crashing at 2 p.m.? How many Celsius can I not drink today, right? To make it through the day. And then also being able to, like, double down on wellness tourism. So for me, when I go travel, I'm picking a hotel and I'm looking at their pictures of the gym online.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, if it's just, ad hoc gym with an elliptical and weights that go up to 25-pound dumbbells, I probably can't get a workout there, right? So, like, what does the gym look like? And then the second thing is they have a spa. What's in the spa? Is there a sauna in the spa? Do they have a cold tub or a cold bath in the spa, right? Those are all main value points for me when I book my travel. And a lot of it's through Marriott to try to keep the Bonvoy points up. But, like, if there is a hotel that is a differentiator with their amenities, then I will literally forfeit the opportunity to accumulate Bonvoy points and go spend at that hotel.
Yeah.
My point being, a lot of people also are doing wellness tourism where they're staying or doing a staycation or visiting a city, and they want all these amenities in their hotel. And so, I think 2030, the stat is that wellness tourism will be a $1.6 trillion market. So with Do Not Disturb, how could we give the public access to wellness all under one roof? And then also be in an ideal location like Ponce City Market, where you have the Flats residence right above us. You have Signal House right next door.
Mm-hmm.
You have Scout short-term apartment rentals in the parking lot. And then right across Old Fort Forward Park, you got Northern Line. You got Glen Iris Lofts. You got all these other places that can benefit from us being an amenity, right?
Yeah.
So residential amenity, tourism amenity, hotel amenity, and then also just being in a high dense area where you have foot traffic, where you have people visiting off the Beltline because they're health conscious and they just got to run in, or they just did a workout at Union Fit or the Forum.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to attract all those demographics to give them a place to one, call home, feel inclusive with it. And that's the community angle and why we prioritize community, but also have it elevated where now they're taking wellness from a proactive approach and not reactive. We don't look or feel like a doctor's office, right? And I think that's a very reactive setting, right? We're not sterile and white walls and very minimalistic. You come and Do Not Disturb and you feel like you're in Italy or France. You name it, right? You put yourself in that position of where this brings you to, but also because it's elevated, you want to stay well. Even if you're not hurt, you want to just stay on top of your wellness.
Yeah.
You want to just get a massage and continue to feel great starting off the weekend versus I roll my ankle in pickleball, let me go sit in a cold tub, right? That's a very reactive approach. And so we built it intentionally with that in mind to make sure that, one, we're attracting all these demographics, but then two, it feels like your third space. It feels like your amenity to your apartment building. It feels like that's the reason you chose Scout Hotel instead of the Four Seasons or instead of the Fourth across the street, because you could walk downstairs to D&D. And I think that is the inspiration behind it and why I wanted to bring wellness to the forefront, especially in my backyard of Atlanta. You know, the South is not wellness forward or really health conscious. And I think the trend and the tailwinds will start making its way down here, but we wanted to do it in a way that, one, we're the premier studio, like ChatGPT said, but also doing it at a way that we can bring our own culture to it. When you think of Nike, right? I'm wearing Nikes right now. Are they the most comfortable shoe? Probably not. But my favorite rapper was wearing Forces. My favorite athlete, Mike Vick, was a Nike athlete, right? Like growing up, Nike was the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So now when I have disposable income, I still buy Nikes because I'm a part of that culture. And I want people to see Do Not Disturb as that culture when it comes to wellness. Not just I have to do it, it's I want to do it. I want to be associated with D&D instead of the 3 other places I could go to get the similar offerings.
Yeah, I mean, like to your point, culture is definitely the culture is definitely moving towards more wellness. I think more health. People are being more conscious of it. They're making decisions based off of it. I love what you talk about with like even wellness tourism, right? Like the fact that people are starting to look at even the amenities these different hotels and stuff provide, or to know what's around, and like even the spot y'all are in. Like to your point, there's a lot of different residential areas around there, so it's accessible because that's just for those that don't know. Like that part of Atlanta. To kind of move around those spaces, you don't really necessarily need a car in some of those spaces too, right? So it's walkable, it's accessible, and like those are the kind of places that we need, not just in Atlanta, but like, in our communities all over here. So let me ask you, like, where does the name Do Not Disturb come from?
Yeah, going back to that NFLPA experience, like I'm always on call. I can't turn my phone off and put it on Do Not Disturb, or else I'll come back to 5 missed texts and probably 10 missed emails, right? Like there's some urgency to what I do. So how can I mentally have a restorative escape and a physical escape? I can go into a space that has wellness all under one roof, pick what I want to do. And we have services that are as little as 30 minutes. You could be up there in, 3 hours time and be out. But how could I give myself a restorative space to put my body on Do Not Disturb, put my mind on Do Not Disturb? Because I necessarily can't do it with my phone. So how can I physically get into a space where the Do Not Disturb setting, just turns on? And then as soon as I walk out, I'm back into the real world. I'm back into the hustle bustle of Atlanta and Pont City Market and whatever the day's journey, has in store for me. And so that's really where the name came from, and being able to physically embody that in a elevated place that kind of speaks for itself. There's places that have speakers in the saunas or TVs in the room. We want you to literally be with your thoughts and be in the comfort and tranquil oasis of what we designed, so that you can hit that restorative aspect of wellness too, and not just the physical recovery and the physical well-being of it.
Yeah, and you mentioned working at the NFLPA as a player director. Like for those who don't know, like what does that role entail? But then also, how does your work with players kind of influence what you're doing with D&D?
Yeah, so what that role is I'm a liaison essentially between the locker rooms that I represent and the NFLPA headquarters, right? So everything we do is governed by a collective bargaining agreement. Our next CBA expires in 2030. So the current one we're on has 400, 500 pages of compliance, benefits, all these things that we negotiate with the NFL. So one is keeping players aware of that, disseminating information. We have annual team meetings that we go to all 32 ball clubs, but then also it's addressing real-time concerns, right? Real-time benefit questions, real-time grievances or compliance issues with the clubs and how long they can practice, right? And as a union, we fight for 3 things: wages, working hours, working conditions. So it's making sure that we're aligned with the NFL clubs that are, one, putting on these practices and scheduling these schedules for the players in season and off season, but also making sure they're getting paid the minimum salary or getting paid things that aren't digressive to the union for the people who sacrificed before them. And also enhancing our current gains, right? Making sure our members are a collective body of people who are all aligned. That doesn't mean we all have to agree on the same thing, but all aligned and informed on NFLPA and union business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does that influence how you look at D&D?
So it just gives me more access to be in the buildings, to see the innovative technology on the wellness side that these clubs with these state-of-the-art locker rooms are continuing to build, and what is at the forefront of wellness, what is the forefront of innovation and recovery, and just getting a first-person POV. My interaction with the players is all strictly union business, right? It has nothing to do with D&D or any of my other endeavors, but it does get me into a locker room that when I was last there in 2019 versus what it looks like in 2025.
You see that difference,
right?
Yeah.
And then NFLPA, we do a annual scorecard where the members all rank their clubs on facilities, cafeteria.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. Like I think the Falcons just got one. Like they got like great facilities or something like
beautiful.
that.
I was at Flowery Branch yesterday.
Yeah.
Beautiful locker room
Mhm.
because of that scorecard, right? But when I did a pro day at Falcons in 2016, that locker room didn't look like what I saw yesterday, right?
Right.
And so it's making sure that, you know, I'm as an entrepreneur also having my ear to the street and seeing what is implemented in these world-class facilities for these world-class athletes and being able to say, all right, we're on the right track. We're
Yeah.
doing X, Y, and Z the right way, and making sure the public has access to that through D&D because they can't go to Flowery Branch.
Yeah.
Because they can't go to 222 Republic Drive, Allen Park, Michigan, right? Or whatever facility that is out there.
Well, that's good. But I'm gonna say, man, like when you say world class and elite athletes, not gonna lie, it sounds expensive. And I know that's something that y'all kind of balance and manage out too, right? So like how do you kind of balance to make sure that it's still accessible to the general public? Because who didn't play in a league, who didn't make a bunch of money, who don't, have they're just, normal everyday people, right? Like how do you make sure it's still accessible to them while kind of still keeping that premium feel to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest part of accessibility is feeling included, feeling inclusive, right? When you go into Do Not Disturb, you feel the culture. We don't have hashtag black owned anywhere. We don't advertise it being a black owned business, but you feel that from our practitioners to our employees to the way we do business. I think feeling inclusive of a brand is one point of accessibility. The second point is our business model was underwrit to be able to have a certain price point and a certain membership model and other ancillary lines of revenue,
Yeah.
right? So there's a membership cohort that is a sizable chunk of our business. And you talked about Ponce City Market. People don't really have cars there.
Mhm.
Our like moniker is internally is like if they can walk, they could be a member
Mhm.
because they can come frequent. They can utilize the services. They can take advantage of the unlimited membership. They can take advantage of the base membership, which is 4 times a month. And so that is one part of the business that allows the rest of the parts to have a little bit more wiggle room, right? So a one-off session starts at $45. 50-minute sessions is $60. First timers get 25% off. If you're a member, your membership pays for itself after a second visit, right? And then members also receive 15 to 20% off, depending on what tier you are, on all our ancillary services. So if I'm an unlimited member, I'm getting 20% off a massage at $135. We're talking about, $105 massage, right? And so that is another way to drive value by also making people feel like, all right, this is a place for me. And not having gimmicky stuff, right? A lot of places you might go to might have a $300,000 red light bed or a $200,000 hyperbaric chamber.
Mhm.
And if I don't feel validated in that amenity being, or that piece of equipment being a value add to the wellness ecosystem we built, then it's not implemented,
Yeah.
right? Because those things are also a part of your business model that you have to underwrite of how can I get the ROI back on that float tank? And for example, right, and then using float tanks as an example, because it's really real life example, but our current massage room was built in the construction documents to be a float tank room with 2 float tanks. Float tanks are around $50,000, $60,000. So that's $120,000 of equipment for, 300 square feet. I did 4 or 5 dinners in our space when it was just a white box with just people in the community reaching out before we opened on LinkedIn and saying, hey, like doing this founder dinner. Who wants to join me? I'll cater some food. Come check out and learn what I'm trying to build at Do Not Disturb. And this was probably 9 months leading up to before we opened. So we had 4 or 5 of these. And I had a projector I would put on the white wall, and it would just go through all the renderings that the architect had designed. And I would kind of just walk people through the vision, right? Like this relax room is going to be in this corner. We're standing in one of the private contrast suites. That float tank room will be behind this wall that we're going to demolition. That bathroom will be right here. And these columns will be hidden and woven throughout the space. So you won't even notice we got 3 columns in our suites. And my point of doing that was, one, to get real-time feedback, get real-time reaction, understand and talk to potential customers and just the consumer at large. And one thing I got from that was I would say we have saunas, cold plunges, and float tanks. And everybody would be like, oh, that's cool. But what's a float tank? I heard that like 10 times. And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't be spending $120,000 on float tanks because what is the ROI and what is the real opportunity to really make that back and then have some margin on top. And so things like that, intentional decisions, but also doing the work, going out into the field and really talking to people allowed, to your question, for us to not have a $200,000 piece of equipment that we now have to pass on to the consumer, which allows us to be more accessible, which allows us to have very competitive pricing amongst our competitors. But also, you're still paying for the aesthetic and the environment and the intentionality, but it's not a 200% difference. It might be a 5% difference, right? And another one was, I was just talking to an entrepreneur that we were bouncing around Atlanta today, showing her different things, allowing her to get insight from other entrepreneurs on, she wanted to open up a brick and mortar. And she asked me a question on the way here. She was like, what was one of your mistakes? And for me, it was our pricing model. To your point, I was naive to what the consumer and the consumer behavior in Atlanta was. Again, this do not disturb model, like the aesthetic and the way it looks and even the way it's built out, was based off of business in Chelsea, right? And Chelsea disposable income and Atlanta disposable income are worlds apart. New York's a different beast, right? And so one thing I was naive to was the price point. He was charging $100 for 50 minutes or $105 for 50 minutes for the same private contract room we charged $60 for. But grand opening was August 16th. I had a grand opening party, family and friends, August 15th. And our membership price was double what it is right now. That night, I couldn't go to sleep. And I was like, I think our pricing is too high. $500 memberships, I don't think anybody has an appetite for that. And again, it goes back to really being outside, talking to people, being where your feet are, beating the street. Because that family and friends event that night before, you have your closest supporters, right? If anybody's gonna support you, it's those people in that room. And I would say, our memberships are this, or this is how much it costs to this, because people ask, like, oh, what's a membership, or things like that. And you could just read their body language. So you'll be like, how much is a membership? And I would say, unlimited is $500. Our base membership 4 times a month is $300. Cool. How much is a t-shirt? Right? That's the response you would get. And, as a self-aware person, you have enough of those responses and enough of those reps that night that it kept me up till 3 a.m. the next day, right? And so I slashed our memberships in half because I realized we're not New York. Our prices are New York based and we're not a New York business, right? The Atlanta consumer and the behavior is different. And so all these are intentional, but also self-aware of the naivety that I came into the business with and also addressing that in real time. Still listening to customers. We have secret shoppers at D&D all the time. I have a consultant, Darnell Presley. We get people in and we got a survey that says, hey, this is how much this costs. What are you willing to pay for it? This is how much our memberships are. Is this price too high or too low? If it's too high, what is the price that you think would be palatable? And things like that are real quantifiable data that now we can go and look at our pricing model and say, oh, we weren't way off like we thought we were. This product is great and the people are willing to pay for it. So let's just continue to double down on what we're doing, continue to build D&D, continue to bring community forward, and you'll reap the benefits of that later down the road.
Yeah, man. I mean, no, what you're talking about is the idea of, again, customer feedback and just iterating on ideas. And I mean, that applies. I think that applies across all businesses because a lot of times too with founders, if you're not careful, you kind of build something in a silo.
Yeah, there you go.
And, for lots of different reasons. Like, I think one of the biggest reasons people tend to do it is because they're afraid somebody's going to take the idea or run off with it. I'm like, nobody's going to take your idea for the most part. But being able to get that feedback, to your point, and really help you build in something that actually, people want. Like, at the end of the day, that's also really the definition of marketing. It's like doing that work, that research, kind of figuring out what it is, and until you can get that right product market fit. Because if not, you can do all that stuff and put all this stuff together, but all of a sudden, if it's like this big reveal, I kind of call it the big bang, right? People are like, well, I didn't really want that, or I didn't really need it like that. And you actually find out, I actually just wanted this thing. And you're like, well, that could have, to your point, like as you used like the examples with the float bins, like you could have spent that money. But people, you got to educate people. They're not necessarily looking for that. They might be looking for that in other markets. But is Atlanta that kind of market where people are really looking for that kind of service? And because you didn't invest in that enabled you to help manage the cost, so you didn't have to pass that on. But had you went ahead and made that investment because you hadn't had those conversations, because you hadn't brought in people from the community, like then again, you would have been in a whole different situation, right? And so just the lesson for this for people that are just building stuff in general is to make sure you're talking to your customers and not just waiting until the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, cause you had the ability to still talk to them while you kind of still had that white box,
Yeah.
approach, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, actually,
We're gonna scrap some
yeah,
of
we're
this.
gonna scrap over this. We can
Yeah.
always say you can make it more complex later.
Yeah.
It's like my mom said, you can always put more season in it,
Exactly.
but you can't take it out.
Yeah, I love it.
So it seems like that's a lesson that you learned.
Yeah, and it was a great lesson because massages now, what that room is being utilized for,
Yeah.
is on a per margin basis our most popular service
Mm-hmm.
and our most valuable service. And I'm glad that I had the humility, but also the foresight to be able to iterate in real time. And what does that look like for brick and mortar? Is being able, to your point, add the seasoning later. You can always add more, but you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? Yeah. And this is, build out costs, construction, general contractors, permits. So this is a real intentionality that you have to have so you don't get to that point where now you're just sitting on something that's burning a hole in your pocket. And so I was, grateful to have entrepreneurs that I could listen to, whether in real life and have conversations like we're having right now, or podcasts, or, I was in business school when I built this idea and was creating this and building out with architects and signing leases and things like that. So I was able to workshop this through classes. I was able to also talk to 200 other students who were like-minded and had diverse opinions and diverse minds, right? Like I'm with McKinsey consultants and Bain consultants and private equity guys and ETA guys who want to buy a business from a small business owner, right? And so being able to really workshop this in real time was really a blessing because a lot of people don't have that. And to your point, going through that entrepreneurship journey and learning, you also learn that no one's really gonna steal your business idea. They may be, but this is my baby.
Right.
And it's hard. So unless they really care about it, just because it's a great idea doesn't mean someone's going to want to do it.
Exactly.
Because that shit's hard. And it's a lot of sacrifice, and it's a financial investment. It's a mental investment. It's a social investment. And so unless they really, really are passionate about it like you and really care, they're probably going to be like, damn, that's a great idea. Their wheels are going to spin for 5 minutes, and they're going to be like, fuck it, I don't want to do it. Right?
Right.
And you still have that visibility to get the real-time feedback.
Yeah.
So stealth mode isn't always the best.
Absolutely, man. Now tell me about you also do some stuff with Captain Partners. You jump into VC, you do some stuff like that. Like what have you kind of learned through that journey of just investing? What do you look for in founders and companies you get involved in? But what have you also kind of learned about business as you've gotten more involved in investing?
Yeah, so we started investing through SPVs, special purpose vehicles. Yeah. And the catalyst for that was I was on my way out the league, but also realized, one, the word private equity wasn't even in my vocabulary until I was 2 years removed from college. And then once I learned what the word private equity meant, I was like, this is how people get to afford to get their children to Wake Forest, right? This is how people get to afford nice houses, or this ecosystem that private equity opens up, right? This is the play. And so I wanted to be a part of that. And I saw the locker room as one of the largest concentrations of capital, right? If you think about the salary cap, I think this year the salary cap is $262 million. 53 guys in that locker room combined are making $262 million of salary, right? That's how I thought about it. And so, one, that was a angle. But then two, at the same time, this is 2019, Whoop, the wearable, and these other innovative tech wearables were starting to hit the locker room. I remember Whoop in 2019 was coming through, the NFLPA was coming through and just dropping Whoop straps in the middle of the locker room and saying, here, try these, right? And Tonal was another company that was coming out around that time. And I remember seeing a Meta ad on Instagram, and Tonal wasn't even advertising the product. They were advertising that Steph Curry and Kevin Durant were investors.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, you have this cohort of guys who have a large allocation of capital at a young age, so they're not that risk averse. They can take big swings, which venture capital entails. And then you also have this platform where founders want to meet athletes. Athletes can be value additive to these sports tech wearable companies because they could be product testers. They can be free promo. They can essentially the endorsement model that marketing entails, but with equity, right? And so me and my buddies put our capital together, did 12 SPVs, invested in these innovative tech companies. And so that's how Captain Partners started. My co-founder was a captain with me at Wake Forest, Jordan Garside. And so that's the name Captain. And what I learned from that is like founders are the sauce, right? Like you got the best idea in the world. If your execution, i.e., your founding team, isn't great, it's gonna fall flat on its face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading Super Pump right now for the second time, and Uber wasn't the first ride sharing company. It was Zimmer Ride, and it was I think called Super Cab or something like that. It was like two other competitors that were doing peer-to-peer ride sharing. Uber was just doing black cars, and then Travis, Travis, the CEO, sat in a Zimmer ride one day and was like, "Oh, we need to be doing peer-to-peer, right?" So my
Mm-hmm.
point being, the founder or the founders and the founding team are really the magic, and then also understanding market dynamics, right? Like sometimes you're just too early, or sometimes you're late to the dance,
Yeah.
right? And there's a plethora of companies that had ideas that are now thriving today. They were just 5 years ahead of time, or they were 5 years past the mark. And so, really doubling down on founders, and then also understanding like the marketing dynamic or market dynamics. And so now taking that into my entrepreneur venture, and we're not a startup, right? We're not on this crazy Y Combinator growth rate
Mm-hmm.
where we got to grow 3% week over week or have this, crazy metric, because we're also not venture capital backed, so they're not expecting hockey stick returns. But at the same time, understanding that the train starts and stops with me, and not saying that I'm the reason that D&D is a great experience, because I don't want to be the magic. I don't want you to come and do not disturb because you might run into Brandon. I want you to come and do not disturb because you understand the product and you love the product. But I also understand that I got to lead a team of 5 people plus a manager to understand the same value and mission and vision that I built Do Not Disturb with, when they have no incentive to care.
Yeah.
Right? Like it is what it is, right? Small business, like they have no incentive to care as much as I do, and they never will. But understanding that I can at least give guardrails and eliminate the gray to allow them to flourish to the best of their execution to perform what we need to perform. One of those being a hospitable environment. I want you to come and do not disturb and feel like you just checked in at the Ritz.
Yeah.
Right? I want you to come and do not disturb and go to the rooms and realize like, wow, that was a great experience. And it felt clean. And it felt like this was just built yesterday. I want you to go to the massage room and be like, he has the 2, 3, 4 best massage therapists I've ever got my massage by. Whether I'm a ballerina or an NFL football player or a 6'9" basketball player or, a 72-year-old senior citizen, right? And being able to have a service for everyone that everyone can feel included and feel like they got value out of. So the investing experience has just made me so much more aware of the founder, right? Or founders.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, again, it sounds like y'all are doing something really amazing over there. Like, you think as more and more players, come through the league and start looking for their next opportunities, do you see more players getting involved in things like investing and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, investing for sure. You see a lot of that with NBA players just because of the contract sizes, but even NFL guys are starting their own VCs or doing a lot of angel investments. I also do believe that athletes, especially professional athletes, because of what it took to get there, are 1,000% apt with the intrinsic and intangible skills, characteristics, and qualities they have to be great entrepreneurs, right? Because you know about resilience.
Mm-hmm.
You know about long-term gains and not instantaneous gratification. You understand you're going to fall more times than you jump, right? You understand discipline and how to stick to a goal even when it doesn't look like it's working out. You understand punctuality, right? As trivial as that is, you understand how to be present and show up and be on time. I remember in college, Coach Clausen, our head coach, he had this thing called Deacon time,
Mm-hmm.
which means meeting starts at 7 a.m. It really starts at 6:45,
Yeah.
right? Deacon time is 15 minutes early. And even at 6:45, the last person that comes to that meeting is also late,
Yeah.
right? Because the meeting has already started. Everyone else is here. And so things like that are just like intrinsically within us allows us to also have that transferable skill as great entrepreneurs. And I was actually, I'm curious your thoughts, but I was actually talking to someone when D&D at first opened, because I was always there, right? You're still building a team. I want to be present to hear customer feedback in real time and really understand what is going on, how the customer journey differs than the customer journey that was in my mind. What are some gaps that, because it's my baby, I don't see that customers would be obvious to, but I'm oblivious to. And my point being, because I have that athlete mindset, like it had to be perfect.
Mhm.
You know, I wore myself to the bone. I really burnt out, right? And it's just because I wanted to take exactly how I became an NFL football player and do it as a business owner. And I think there has to be some type of balance because, again, we're just so apt to be able to do this. Like I was playing football at 6 years old with the
Yeah.
mindset I'm gonna play in the NFL. That's like a 0.001% chance of all 6-year-olds that have that same thought, right? It might be even smaller than that. But for some reason, even as a 2-star recruit out of Hillgrove High School, going to Wake Forest, the smallest Power 5 school in the country, being a, a red shirt and then not starting my freshman year and then somehow being a 3-year starter and then going undrafted to the NFL, right? Like all these, it could have ended at any moments.
Yeah.
And I still persevered, right? Like that has something to do with what you can be as an entrepreneur. And I'm not the only athlete that's gone through that, right? It's a lot of people that are in that same position, which is why I think a lot of athlete-led businesses and founded businesses will continue to sprout up and will become more ubiquitous because athletes are also understanding and more apt and aware of this game could be taken from you at any moment, especially football, 100% contact sport, 100% injury rate,
Yeah.
right? Like again, I'm in the Wake Forest Hall of Fame and I went undrafted. And then I never got hurt in college, never saw a training room. And then my second OTA practice in the NFL for the Detroit Lions, I tear my ACL. And then I do it again 2 years later in Carolina, right?
Mhm.
Like, can't predict that. There's no crystal ball, right? If I told me that at 18 that would happen, I'd be like, oh, that's not me. I've never been hurt, right? But then also understanding that, like, I got 40 more years to make money.
Right.
Like, if this ends at 26, I got 40 more years where I still got to find a dime, right? Like, and so how can I set myself up? And my point being, I think athletes are more aware of that now because a lot more visibility is put through podcasts or documentaries on this, but also because they're now entrepreneurs per se in college.
Yeah.
They're willing and dealing on NIL deals. They're understanding their leverage. They're understanding their platform and what they bring to these universities or these NFL clubs or professional clubs that they're playing for. And so now they're having more of a transitive mindset to say, all right, what am I doing next? I could play for 10 more years or 10 more weeks. What am I doing next? And being able to really affect their own destiny.
Yeah. Well, again, and I think for a long time too, people have heard the narratives. They've heard the stats about, this is what happens to athletes after their
Exactly.
careers. And I mean, look, these guys, a lot of these guys are very smart. They're very aware of this stuff. And again, and that might have been how it had been for a while. That might have been a trend.
Mm-hmm.
But if anything, I would argue to say like it's probably trending downwards because people are more aware. Because the parents who are helping to get these kids into schools and into the league and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, they're also aware and they're also doing things. And so I think, yeah, the day of the athlete just kind of like not knowing what's going on and being taken advantage of. I mean, you're going to have situations that happen,
Yeah.
but I think there's definitely just more awareness. And people, to the same point, they're saying to themselves, okay, like, look, I know the stats. I know that, this is a finite time, which I'm going to be able to do this. I'm going to be able to do it longer. That's great. But, like, to your point, what am I going to do the next 20, 30, 40 years, right? Like, what am I going to spread that out versus traditional people that, again, that are working and kind of like have a longer lifespan when it comes to their career and that. There's definitely, second and third lives after that. And I think people are, especially now with NILs and everything else, they're treating this thing like a business. They're understanding that even what they're doing, even though they're playing a game, that's a business, and they're kind of transitioning it out, man. So no, like it's a lot more awareness. Like, so let me ask you, man, as we get ready to like start wrapping this up, like what do you think that what do you want people to experience when they come into D&D that they can't find anywhere else?
First, I mean, our mission is creating a tranquil oasis where a community can develop a wellness routine and prioritize wellness. What I want you to experience as soon as you walk through those doors is I'm no longer in Pont City Market, let alone Atlanta. I'm in, again, France. I'm in Italy, wherever your mind takes you. And then also understanding that I am at the control of my own health and wellness, right? And so being empowered to want to do contrast, right? Um, Sauna and cold plunge, being empowered to want to do IV therapy, being empowered to wanting to get a massage, and feeling like there is more that can come from this, right? From the health side, from the wellness side, from the social side, from the longevity side. And I want people to realize that this can be something that's ubiquitous as a gym,
Yeah.
right? like we've evangelized fitness to the point like it's almost a no-brainer that you have to have a gym membership. When I walked in here today, I said, where you work out, right? Not, you never brought up fitness or anything. I assumed you had a gym membership. Everyone has a gym membership. And so I think in, next half decade or so, everyone will have a wellness membership. And I want them to feel empowered, to feel like, one, I can develop a wellness routine and prioritize it just as much as I prioritize lifting weights or running on the treadmill. But two, I want them to feel like they belong. Like, Do Not Disturb isn't a franchise.
Yeah.
This isn't, some box I got the playbook from someone else and I'm at the behest of their decisions and their rules, right? Like, I want them to feel a part of our community, because everything we do, from the merch we sell to what we retail, like our candles, is Linwood Court. She makes our fragrance, and she's in Citizen Supply on the second floor, Black-owned, woman-owned. The water we give away for free, Beauty Water, Black-owned, woman-owned, right? Like, all these intentional decisions that aren't free for us, right, in our cost centers, but allow our community to be a part of something bigger than just the D&D experience. It's, I'm supporting other businesses through D&D. I'm supporting other therapists and practitioners through D&D. And I want that to be a intrinsic thought when people walk through our double doors, and also when they leave our double doors, right? I think that's the most important part. I talk to my staff all the time. It's like, you could be the most hospitable person in the world. You could be great. You can have a conversation with a wall. You can be great. But if they go to that room and the sauna wasn't hot, or the trash, the towels from the last person was in there, like, that can kill everything you just built up. So I also want people to feel like this is a world-class experience that allows for me to want to be proactive and want to prioritize and want to develop a routine, because it's a place I feel like I can do that, and the consistency is there and the hospitality is there.
That's dope, man. Well, congratulations on building that space. I know you had a second space that opened in Juniper. So as we get ready to wrap this up, man, tell them, how can they support you? How can they find D&D? Like, give them all the things. So
Do Not Disturb, we're at Ponce City Market. We're on the ground floor facing North Avenue. So right next to Pancake Social, in between Pancake Social and the leasing office. So come visit us. We also, DoNotDisturbATL.com is our website. You can book online. If you book online, use code Butternomics.
Okay.
25% off your first visit. Butternomics, 25% off your first visit of a private contrast room, 15% off your first massage. So those are two ways you can support us. Also, we have merch we sell online now. So we have a Shopify account. We have, I think, some of the most culturally relevant merch that you don't wear just to support. You wear because it's cool. So you can find that on our website as well. And then our Instagram is @DoNotDisturb. So follow, share with your friends. We'll do many events in the community that will be free, so you can be a part of that as well. But I think the biggest is just come Ponce City Market. We validate parking, level 2 and level 3 for up to 90 minutes. So don't let that be a deterrent. And then Do Not Disturb ATL and Do Not Disturb Instagram.
Hey, man. Well, look.
Code Butternomics.
Hey, use code Butternomics. Look, man. Congratulations, Brandon, on everything, man. It sounds like an amazing place. Look, I'm going to go check it out. I was over thinking about it like now. Like, I need to go pull up over there.
Yeah, I told you we got that old 4 forward pass, right? So Union Fit as the gym arm, and we're the wellness arm. So whenever you go to hit tie up again and get some reps in, come to D&D right after. It's a 3-minute walk on the belt line.
Hey, sounds like a plan, man. Well, look, again, congratulations on everything, on all the great work you're doing. D&D, wish you much success. And with that said, y'all, we out. That's the pod.